All right, I'm going to walk you through what my challenge is, the things that I have to go through for my own particular small wind turbine installation. I have a homebrew turbine that will have a rated nameplate of somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2 kilowatts. And so it's not much larger than the Berge XL that's installed down in Fort Atkinson. I got in touch with the We Energies energy services consultant, Mike Wastian, and you can see his information here on the email that he sent me. And let you guys have a chance to read this. And you'll notice that there are 3 links shown to the bottom. 2 of them are actually the same. I don't know if he did that on purpose or it was an accident. And we'll go to those links here in just a moment. Up here, he mentions some of the things we had talked about on the telephone. He's including the links to the tariffs, the applications, and the one-line diagrams. I have 2 options for a rate tariff, and one of them is CGS. It's a customer generation system, NM, and the other one is NP. All right, so we'll actually see those here in just a moment. I'll look at both of what those rates are. One of them, the NP, allows me it does not allow me to sell any energy back. So there's no net metering on that one. And the NM does allow for net metering, right? One of the problems is I have to pay for a meter no matter what. I have to pay to have a second meter installed because they're saying that the PSC mandates that their company record all generation. And it was approved as part of a rate case that was put before the PSC last year. There was not a lot of happiness on the renewable energy side of the world, but the utility was very happy that they were able to push this through. So anyhow, he also gave me the name of the service meter person there, a guy named Ken Jeske, and he's the service lead. And he also goes on to mention that the first one-line diagram would pertain to my system. So let's go to those. When I go to the first link, it's going to take me here to this is the customer owned generation page, right? So this tells me what I need to do. It's quite lengthy actually, okay? And so the first thing that I could click on here was the chapter PSC 119 rules for interconnecting a distributed generation facility. When I clicked on that, it opened another tab over here, and that other tab showed what all of this was. We'll look that over here in just a moment. So again, back here on where I had looked, it tells me what my responsibilities are. You and your installer are responsible for the coordination, design, installation, operation, and maintenance of my system that I install and to be conforming with the requirements of their tariff rules and laws and applicable government laws and regulations, state, local, and federal. Okay, I'm required by law to maintain liability insurance equal to or greater than the amounts indicated in PSC 119. I believe it's $300,000 or something like that. And I'm required to notify them if a material modification is going to be made to the facility at any time. So their responsibilities are listed right there, that they're going to follow through all of the steps listed below here. And there are 12 steps listed below. So the first thing is I need to call them and inform them that I would like to do this. I have already done that, and he responded within 5 days and got me all the documents. So he did number 1. Number 2 is to fill out the interconnection application. And when I click on this link right here, that's going to take me to this website. This website, oops, sorry, I meant this website. This website right here. So this is the Public Service Commission, and these are the forms. Right, so we can see that if I am going to be generating less than 20 kilowatts or less, then I need to use this form, which is actually a pretty old form, right? And so one of them is an interconnection agreement, and the other one is the application form. So I'm responsible to fill out those, and you can see there's PDFs here, and when you click on them, they'll take you to, this is the first one. All right, so this is the interconnection agreement. Let's whip through this. All right, must be completed and submitted directly to my electric provider. So this I send to We Energies. So I got to fill it out here, and this is a form that you can actually fill out online and print it out, and it'll look nice and neat. So you got to fill in the public utility is the owner serving, okay, so I have to put in my address here, and then there's a lot of stuff in here that we would have recognized when we read this PSC 119, All right, here's the PSC 119, which is why I have this. So all the different, this is a good document to keep on hand while you're filling out your different forms. Now, I'm going to have you guys look to see what your power company requires in order to do this, okay? All right, and so here we go. Let's back on here. The applicant desires to install a distributed generation facility or energy storage device up to 20 kilowatts. They have not previously filled out any information on me, but I do wish to use this document. Here's the agreement. Obviously, you need to read it over. They may require that I, the applicant, furnish and install an interconnection disconnect that opens with a visual break of all the interconnected poles and the interconnected circuit, right? In accordance with the UL, the Underwriters Laboratory, ANSI, and IEEE standards, along with Wisconsin Electric Safety Code, Volume 2, Chapter Com 16. All right, so there's a lot of stuff. And you know, like I said back here on their list, they want me to do 12 things. You know, a lot of people, when they ask you to do 12 things, what do you normally do? You don't want to do any of it, right? You say, the hell with it, I'm not going to do it. Well, I'm doing it. All right, so back to where we were. So we're back here. What else do we have here? Modifications. Applicant shall notify the public utility of plans for any material modifications to the facility, providing at least 20 working days. So if I'm going to install a bigger turbine, I got to tell them. If I'm going to put in a smaller turbine, I got to tell them. Because believe it or not, they're going to be counting on the energy that I create, so to speak. It says here I have to have insurance on the property. All right, I have to provide proof of insurance. Again, they're trying to scare me, and I don't want to put it that way. It's important that I do have this insurance, and some homeowners would be intimidated that, oh, I need to get more insurance. I already have this much insurance. Most homeowners do. They have more than that. This indemnification, well, who's at fault? They're saying that the power company will not reimburse me for any problems that they cause, and I can't sue them over it. That's what that's about. Here's the commissioning testing. So they have to be able to come in and test this, and mostly what they're looking for is to make sure that my system will not cause any safety issues to them, and here's the timelines behind them. They have to have access to my facility. I have to be able to get them into that at any time. And it says here that they should be able to disconnect my facility to permit them to perform routine repairs and maintenance on the system. Well, you'll see here in a minute how mine is going to be installed. And basically, if they want to do anything like that, they'll be cutting off electricity to my entire house. Well, so this isn't going to be a big deal. Disconnection of the DG facility without notice. So they can disconnect me at any time, so they say. But that's not going to be an issue. So this is a big agreement that I have to agree to, sign, and all that other stuff, and submit directly to the electric utility. So that's the first form. The second form, right, that was the agreement. This is the application. So the application, again, where I live, phone number, email address, how to contact me, the location of the property, including lat long, can get that right out of my cell phone, my electric service account number, I'll show you that here in a moment, the interest in the generation. Do I own it? Am I a co-owner? Do I lease it? Other. Okay, so I own this. The primary intent is to use the power and have net billing. There's also the ability to put in a turbine and sell it to a third party. So, anticipated annual electricity consumption for the facility of the site. About how much will I use a year? Well, I want to show you something that you hopefully have done on your own properties. So on We Energies, where I get mine, I'm able to log in and look at my bill history, and so when I poked around with that, I can see my address there, and I was able to download this in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. Well, notice there's 4 tabs here. Account summary, right? And the account summary is shown here, and it's going to give me 24 months worth of stuff here, right? So I got 24 months worth of history, right? And I want you to see here on the bottom of my screen, you see, this is actually an Excel spreadsheet, because you see I downloaded every one of these and I copied those tabs into all one file. So the account summary, that's one download.
Basic summary, another download. Basic usage detail, another download. And then finally the cost detail. Those were all separate downloads. And when I did that, I was able to then put them all into this spreadsheet, right? Which we'll look at now. And I was able to maneuver it around a little bit using Excel and to save it. I combined each of those spreadsheets into one file. So here's the account summary, which shows the billing date, how much electricity I was charged for, and what my charges were. There we go, right? So I can horse around with all of this. I even went down here into this tab and I made a summary, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to move the decimal point over. So my average electrical use over 2 years was 680 kilowatt hours per month. Okay, that's my average. That's a little lower than the national average. Let's see, my charges here, I could do the same thing. I'm just going to slide this over and we're going to see what my average monthly bill was, $109. So that's summer and winter, okay, combined. That's fine. When I look at the basic summary, look at some of the extra data that it gives me. The meter number, the bill, blah, blah. Okay, here's the number of billing days, right? And I also have, again, this is that same averaged electricity used. I can also average this. I'll do this right here with you guys watching. And it should be the same numbers I had from the other page. And sure enough, it was. It should be. It's the same data. All right, so there we go. And so the electricity charge is going to be the same. Now notice what happened here. Look at this facilities and miscellaneous charges. It was a lot smaller a year ago. When did it start getting bigger? Holy smokes, it got up into the $18 range somewhere around January of 2015. Well, I wanted to go even further now. Let's look at the cost detail. When I go to the cost detail, now I'm going to see, ooh, we can definitely see what happened here. All right, let me make this a little bigger so you can see what's going on. So, on the facilities charges, there was a rate case made because the utility companies, especially We Energies in general, they said, you know what, people are using electricity, and they wanted to blame this on the solar users and the PV users. And so they convinced the Public Service Commission to allow them to raise the facility charges. So if I look at the facility charge of right here in November of 2014, it was $8.70. They convinced the governor's people that they should be able to double that because they weren't getting enough profit. And they did. So from $8.70 from November to December of 2015, what did it go up to? Well, here we go. November to December, it went up to $14.70. Right? So these costs pretty close to doubled. Pretty close to doubled. Now, what about my electric use? Well, see, this is the nice thing about putting it into Excel, is I was able to massage the numbers around. So I've copied some of the tables, some of the columns from some of these other charts, and I've added them on here to the usage detail. And I split it. I want to get a 1-year average, and the reason for that is that's what they're asking me for here on this table, right? On this form, they want to know what is my anticipated annual electrical consumption at the facility. That's what they want right here. So let's compare 1 year to another year. So go back to the Excel spreadsheet. I divided it after the first 12 months, right? So from the March 21st of 2016 to the middle of March of 2015. That's how they did their monthly bills. I put in a couple lines here and I had it average. So my average electrical use was 643 kilowatt hours. My average kilowatts use per day was 21 kilowatt hours per day. Notice what the average temperature was, the number of heating degree days and cooling degree days, and I can see what my electricity charge was, $84.25. But I also brought this facilities charge over here, so I want to see how big that was. So let's compare those numbers to the year before. The year before, the previous year, what happened to the heating degree days? Well, heating degree days, there was actually less heating degree days, okay? Which means my solar water pumps weren't running as much. There was actually more air conditioning to happen though, see? So I had more cooling days, 47 cooling degree days as compared to 34. So global warming is happening, and I can see that right here on my bill. I don't need to consult the internet. I have my own data right here. So, but what about my average electrical use here? My average electrical use went from 643 for the past year down from 718. Well, I guess you can see why the electric companies wanted to raise their rates somehow, because I'm using less electricity, significantly less. So, all right, so that's the rationale. So which of these numbers will I use? I will likely use the 643 or 718. Which should I use? I don't know. Maybe I should call it 675. Maybe I should average the two together. And use those numbers, because you just never know what's going to happen from year to year. It really doesn't matter when you get right down to it. So that's what I have to put here. Now, what is the anticipated electrical production for the generation system? Well, I hope to have, I'm going to have to be able to do some calculations on this. And how could I do this? Well, remember when we did our assessments back in the earlier chapters? Well, I know how much the wind blew in a couple of locations. So if I can guess what the actual wind was there and use that and compare it to the size of my rotor, it's a 6-foot, each blade is 6 feet long, so I have a 12-foot rotor diameter. I can use a calculation there, use the wind shear calculation that we used, and I can put a number in there, and I will. And then in the end, I will subtract one from the other as far as the amount of kilowatt hours purchased. What I expect my system will do is reduce the amount of electricity that I use. Okay? All right. So, any value that's negative are going to be net sales to the public utility. We're going to need to look at that a little bit more. Who's my installing contractor? That would be me and my address. I can put the date in here. Now they want what's called a one-line schematic diagram of the system. Okay, one-line schematic diagram. How many pages am I going to send them? Well, they only want one. That's probably what I should send them. We'll get to that in a minute. My specific manufacturer, the generator / inverter information. I'm going to put in here home built / Aurora, because that's the power. That is the inverter number. Over here on the model number, I will put in the 12-foot homebrew / and the model number of the inverter, version number 1 / and so forth. So I'll put that information in here. Mine is single phase. Mine uses an inverter. The nameplate ratings, I will list which of those I choose from the inverter, and the primary energy source will be wind. Wind. Okay, that's it. So that's all I have to fill out here. All right. Now, I want to go back to that email that the gentleman had sent me. That's right here. And where did it go? Oh, shoot. I didn't want to do that. All right. So back here, this was from Mike. And Mike said to me, he said, I hope you're able to get a hold of Ken Jeske. And then finally, his last sentence was, oh, by the way, the first one-line diagram would pertain to your system. The first one-line diagram would pertain to my system. So that was this customer-owned generations, right? Well, I actually saved that over here, and this is the form that was sent to me. So in 2015, these were what We Energies used for customer-owned generation diagrams. So this is what I have to follow. Now, you guys are going to have to do the same thing for your assignment here. If you have Alliant or MG&E or whomever it is, you're going to have to find out what the rules are for those guys. And that'll be part of your homework assignment, is to get that information. All right, so wouldn't it be great if these were hot linked? They're not. They're just blue. So he said the first drawing. Well, let's look at the first drawing. The first drawing says self-contained or secondary rate metering, self-contained meter, single phase, 3-wire, 240 volts grounded, 200 amp service for a PV generated 20 kilowatts or less. All right, I'm going to zoom this smaller so we can see the whole thing on the page. I don't know. Maybe I can do this. Window view, page display. View. Full screen mode. We'll try that one. So that's good. Oh, I hope I don't shoot myself in the foot here. So under the full screen mode, this says this is what I have. So here is my solar or PV generator. Okay, they realize that this can be a wind turbine. The certified UL1741 inverter. Okay, remember what that was all about, the anti-islanding. So I will show that. I then have to have a service disconnect. I then have to have a generation meter with adapter that is going to plug into the point of service. And now this shows as the utility service conductors. Okay, this is my existing meter on the side of the house. This point of service, this is the wire that comes over from the transformer that's at the end of what we always called the telephone pole, the utility pole. So what this drawing shows me is that I can have two, that I will have to have two separate meters, and it tells me it's a class 200 socket. That's what the gentleman told me that I needed to have. I suspect, however, that I'm not going to be able to get away with this. So this was the first one. Let's go to the second one. The second one shows that I have an underground service with a two position meter pedestal. Okay, so this is an underground service. Now this underground service means that it's going to be buried. I don't have that. I kind of wish I did, because I'd like to get that pole out of my yard. But I don't have that. Maybe this will be a way for me to do this. Now they want me to have a two position meter pedestal in this drawing. Okay, so, and again, the service is going to come in here and it splits off to the revenue meter, which is where they get paid. And then here's the second meter that is going to cause it to run the other direction. All right. The third drawing shows that I can have a 2-meter socket like this, again, an underground. So again, in this case, I would have to put in a 2-meter service box socket, right? And so again, this is for underground, and I don't have underground. Here's another underground, and they actually spell out what you need, the Milbank number here, right? And then the next one, this is the one that I suspect that I really will have to install. Even though the guy told me the first one is the one I need, I think this is the one that I need. And this is the one I think that they're going to make me install. I hope not, because I would frankly prefer to just replace one. It'd be a lot cheaper and a lot less work. So I will get a hold of that fella, that Mr. Jeske, that was on the email that he had sent me, this Ken Jeske, because he's the meter and service guy, and I'll send him a photograph of my scenario and see if he'll let me get by with this one here, where I install this meter, because I already have this installed, I've yet to install this. I have it, I'm ready to put it on the wall, but I wanted to make sure that before I put it in, I wanted to find out if they were going to make me do this or this. It's going to be one or the other, okay? And let's see what the last picture looks like. The last picture looks like this would be for a system that's significantly larger, a 400 amp service. I only have a, I don't have one that's that big. So, okay, so I know it won't be that one. So it's either going to be page 6 or it's going to be page 2. And so I'll have to get a hold of that guy and find out what he wants me to do. All right, so let's go back to my application. And here on the application, again, so we saw all of this stuff, and this is what I have to have filled out. So that will be my challenge, and I will keep you posted here as I'm going to be installing this yet this semester. What else do I have to do? So this is the one-line diagram that he wants me to include. I may include a photograph that shows where I would like to put the extra meter, and hopefully he'll let me get away with it. They need a site plan showing the external disconnect switch. Okay, so I'll have to add that. I'll have to put in my insurance agent's information here. Has the proposed distributed generation paralleling equipment been certified? Yes, yes it has. Okay, so I will say yes, that now the distributed generation paralleling equipment has been certified. That's the inverter. The inverter is certified, and I do have that in the documentation that I got with the inverter. Any specific comments? I don't need to put anything else in here. All right, so there, I'm good. So that was step number 2 of 12. All right, and this is where I send it to. Application review, I send it to them. If the application is incomplete, they will let me know, and it needs to be signed and sent in. Their role, once the application, let's make sure we read that. Within 10 working days of receiving the new or revised application, we notify whether it's complete or not. If it's incomplete, they kick it back to me. They will also send me the appropriate standard interconnection agreement and surplus energy agreement if applicable. And of course, then I'll have to sign it before we can actually commence any parallel generation, which means me putting energy back onto the grid. Their role, they're going to have their engineering people review it if necessary. Because my system is so small, don't think they're going to do it. All right, so we'll see. Distribution system, all right, they know that my system is so small, they're not even going to feel this. They're not going to feel this at all. Hopefully, they'll pass it through, and I'll let you know what happens there. If there's a distribution study, notification of any construction or modification costs, they will notify me if I need to do, now, let's say I was putting in a big system. Let's say I was putting in a whole bunch of turbines, right? Then a lot of this would apply. Installation of this, I submit payment for the required upgrade of my distribution system. I don't think there will be any. The testing, once I tell them that I'm ready, then we're going to schedule it. They'll have to come out and witness the commissioning tests and perform an anti-islanding test. Okay. Now, what that means is that they want to verify that when they kill the power, that my system stops generating electricity. That's it. And then lastly, after I get this appropriate interconnection agreement, which was this guy, remember? This is the distributed generation document, and this was the, I think this was the agreement here. There's the agreement, right? Once that's all done, then we're set. Now, here are the agreements, right? Customer generation and no energy sale. That's the NP he talked about. Nope, that's not the one that I'm doing. Okay, less than 300 kilowatts, CGS NM. So this is my energy agreement. Okay, this is my energy agreement. So, so we'll click on this, see what it looks like. Surplus energy agreement for less than 300 kilowatts. So the whereases, the rates, a lot of stuff here, huh? I will read this more carefully and I will sign it. Basically, it says that, well, I'm going to read this more carefully. I'm not going to go over that right now. Let's come back here. All right, so that is the NM version. Well, here's another one. Here's a renewable generation, CGS8. Well, wait a second now. That seems to me that I qualify for that as well, right? Let's see what that is. Under the concept of the net energy billing, the company will provide 2 meters to determine the energy consumed by the customer or received by the company. The cost of the meters will be paid for by the customer. The customer will read the meters on a regular basis. Okay. If the amount of energy supplied to the company exceeds the amount of energy consumed in a billing period, the customer will receive credit on its bill equal to the net excess hours of energy received by the company, as defined by the tariff, including any adjustments for the cost of fuel. The credit for any excess generation is determined on each month's meter reading and shall be credited in the following month. It will be carried forward to the next month that is not used up, and basically I believe what it says is on May 1st of each year they're going to settle up. So that could be a perfect time for me to get this new system up and going. That would be a great goal. Have it up by May 1st. The customer will be responsible for maintaining and generating the stuff safely. They seem to have the right to pull the rug out from underneath me at any time. And there it shows the insurance that I have to have and the signature page. So I guess I can, it's going to be one or the other, right? Let me back up. All right. So information for the owner installer. Let's see, customer generated diagrams. Let's see what that is. I think it's the same thing I was looking at before. Sure enough, that's the one we looked at before. Okay, let's come back here. Oh, look at that, the PV Watts calculator. Some of you guys know what that is. Distributed generation interconnection guidelines, technical requirements supplement. All this stuff would certainly be worth looking over, wouldn't it? We already saw those rules, right? These are the rules right here, okay? And so that tells me the different categories and what the state says the utility has to respond for some of these things in so many working days. And so this is what I have to go by, all right? This is what I have to go by, and I don't have a whole lot of choice here. Well, is that true or not? I guess what I could do is disconnect from the grid and go completely battery powered. Tempting, isn't it? All right, so that's week 9, planning. I will put a note on the Blackboard this week to let you know exactly what your homework is going to be. But for right now, watching these movies is probably about all you need to do.